Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Everyday Alchemist podcast, a podcast where we remind you to be the alchemist of your life, to turn your fear into faith and your pain into power. Today, I have my co-host Nishaya Sharma and Nick Sharma joining us. It is a bit of an impromptu episode, but we felt like we wanted to come on here and just do a real short episode to talk about what's actually been happening globally this week. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened. We don't really want to get into all the details, but we do want to sort of empower people to say that there is a reason why it's happening, and now is not the time to let your fear rule you. So welcome Nick and Nishaya to the podcast.
Thank you, Neelma, and would like to also just acknowledge Nishaya. This is her first podcast with us, so I think so far she's doing a great job, and we're actually really happy to have her as part of our series going forward. But just coming back to the topic that Neelma just mentioned, I think in the world, you open up your social media, if you watch the news, everything's around fear, everything's around conquer and divide, I think is the theme that a lot of institutes, governments, if you want to call it that, groups are using to push their own agenda, to push their own propaganda, which is the way I see it. And I think, we're going to sort of chat about that today. But I really feel they use these types of notions to fuel their own agenda, essentially, because at the end of the day, it's easier to conquer by dividing people. So whether it be using race, which is one that, you're seeing a lot of in the media today, or you're using, sexism, or they're using a lot of the time religion is a focal point to divide people. They're also dividing nations now, where it's crazy. I mean, they're using what's happening in another part of the world based on what's happening there and their political democratic setup, which we don't even know, but we don't even live there. We've got nothing to do with what's happening in those regions. And we are trying to bring that into our own lives. The madness of it all is it just really, I think, coming back to what Neelma was saying, is the fear is the propaganda. And it's actually disabling a lot of people to be able to live their own lives, to be able to just be day to day, focus on real things. And I think I felt it, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit more. But I've really been fearful in the last couple of days, just with everything I think that's been building up in Melbourne, in Palestine, in America now, with the US and the things that are going on there. So what I guess something that I wanted to navigate to you, Neelma, how do you feel about what's happening in the media at the moment, and how's that impacting on you?
Normally I'm a very positive person, and I try not to tune into the news, or like we haven't turned on the 6 o'clock news for, I don't know, maybe 10 years, because we don't want to get trapped into the whole negativity realm of things. But I got to say, this week has been really hard, and I have felt fear creep up into my body, only because every time you do go into social media, which I have been mindful of not trying to go on it too much, but when I have gone on it, it is scary. All you see is violence. All you see is division, like Nick was saying. And we do have a trip booked in, in November to go on a holiday. And honestly, my sister and me and Nick and, the other family members that are going with us, we have been contemplating, do we go or do we not go? I mean, we would have never even be like we discussing this like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, but because of where things are at the moment, we are contemplating, do we actually cancel our holiday? And the thing is, this morning Nick and I woke up and we said, what are we doing? Why are we letting fear rule us? Like we don't want to live in fear, because we know our faith is bigger than that. And it's not just about faith as well, it's about how we are going to go live going forward, because I don't want to bring that fear into my child, because everything is vibration, and if I get fearful now, it's going to affect my child, it's going to affect everything that we've worked for so long. So yes, definitely feeling things are happening in the world, but I have another understanding which is really, really helpful to me, and I try and tell you. Tell my family members. I know what's happening. I know why this is happening. We are going, and I have spoken about this on my podcast in previous episodes. Um, the world is changing. Mother Gaia, the earth is changing from vibrating at the third dimension, moving into the fifth dimension. So, what is happening right now, and you will, if you go back to 2012, this has started back in 2012. It's going to go on until 2032. So, what we're seeing right now is the peak, the start of the peak. It is not the peak. It's going to, by the time we get to 2028, that's when it's going to worsen a little bit as well. But by the time we get to 2032, Mother Gaia, the Earth will, the frequency of Earth will fully be at the fifth dimension. So just to give everyone a quick understanding of what a third dimension is. Third dimension is when you it's a very selfish place people are living from. It's all about me, I. How it's gonna, how will it affect me? How do I get ahead? How it's not about caring about anyone else. When you start to move into the fourth dimension, that's when your heart starts to open. You starting to sort of move away from the greediness, the jealousy, the ego-based things, and moving more into a heart space. When you're in your heart space, that's when there's more love and you can give more love. When you are fully at the fifth dimension, that's when you start doing things for other people. And we're not quite there. We are at the beginning of the fifth dimension, but we will fully be there in 2032. So that's just to give you a spiritual understanding of what is actually happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just one thing that I love the spiritual part of it. I just wanted to also mention that there's a lot of hate at the moment, particularly aimed at immigrants, and I just wanted to really speak up in that sense. Where look, I'm an immigrant. Neelma's an immigrant. Most of our families are immigrants. We've
Not
been
Nishaya. Nishaya's a
from the Shires. Yeah,
Kiwi.
well, she's born here, but I sometimes brag I'm here, I'm born here, but I'm not.
Nope.
But coming back to this whole, I feel like immigrants have been picked on at the moment. And look, there's good and bad in every race. I think anybody that's educated that actually is not living in a little bubble, I think you would definitely agree with what I'm saying here. There's good and bad in every race, in every creed, and in every part of the world. No one, is perfect. And I think, that's the first point. But I also wanted to, bring in where I feel like, immigrants have been picked on at the moment a lot. And the general notion is, and if you know immigrant families, or you work with them, particularly at your work, you'll know what I'm saying here is the actual truth. Majority of them come here to build a better life for themselves and for their families, particularly for their kids. They've probably come from hardship a lot of the time, where they've had a real tough time in their own countries with whatever is going on there. And let's be fair. Look, living in New Zealand, living in Australia, this is haven, right? Like that's why we come here, because there's peace here. Majority of people are nice. Majority of people are respectful. Majority of people, like they don't have all the crap that they're dealing with, back home. So I think, from that sense, that's the reason why they come to, bigger countries, because it's democratic. There's no drama there. People are just getting on with life. But I think the other thing is that, majority of immigrants are respectful. They work hard. They're not here. Well, I'm talking about the majority. I'm not talking about everybody, but particularly the ones that I know that have come from my circles, and people that are in our own families. They're good people. They work hard. They want to contribute. They want to give. And look, majority of my mates, they are like, they're just everyday Kiwis. They come from other ethnicities. I've got a lot of local Maori mates. I've got a lot of Polynesian friends. I've got obviously a lot of Indian, Fijian Indian, and also have a lot of Pakeha friends too. So it's all one big happy family. But I think a lot of this is being, again, coming back to this, divide and conquer kind of strategy that I'm seeing playing out, where people are almost putting everybody into a bucket, and which I think is very, very unfair. I think people are people. There's good and bad and everything, but you shouldn't be judging people just based on how they look or how they're being portrayed, particularly in social media. I think that's where, I've got a major gripe with that, because they're just using it to feed their own propaganda. They're using it to feed something. And I think that's where people need to look a little bit deeper and just think, okay, hang on. Why is this coming on my feed? What is the real guts behind it? And I think until you really do that, you're just a puppet. Like, you're just going along for the ride. They are just fueling your head with whatever they want to fuel it with, and you're just another, like a puppet in that whole circus until you maybe realize, or maybe you don't. I don't know, but I would really urge you to really think about what's actually really happening. And I think that's really, really important, for us, as Neelma said, going into this next phase, because there's going to be a lot of this, that is going to be coming out, and you really need to stay connected, but almost sometimes switch off social media, switch off some of the crap that's actually coming, and actually know the truth. Because until you really, really know the truth, I think you're probably just being taken for a ride. So that's something that I just wanted to.
That's really well said. I think the main point that I got away from what you were saying was you have to tune away from social media and really tune into who you're listening to, because there are a lot of people that do like to spread hate. And they want to divide everything, because divide people into groups and then make them fight over certain things. I think going back to what you're saying, I think there always has been racism in the world. There always has
Sure.
been wars going around in the world. The only difference is now that people are broadcasting it more now, because we have social media. Everyone is a journalist now. Everyone has a superstar. They've got a camera and they can film anything and then put it up on social media. So it is exaggerated as well. It's not to say it's not happening in the world. It definitely is. And, there are wars going around in the world. And it's not to say we don't feel what's happening there. We obviously feel for the kids. I don't want to say any names of countries because they might actually stop our thing from going into the algorithm, because they are controlling a lot of stuff as well, social media and YouTube. So you have to be careful what you say. But I think, because going back to my spiritual stuff, because I'm always looking at things from the lenses of why this is happening and spiritually what it means. And I believe the reason why it's been so, it's so clearly evident now why these things are happening. Racism has always been there, but it is totally in the focus now. Everyone knows that there's racism going on in the world. I felt, I was saying to you today, I feel sorry for the people that fight over religion, because they forget that, they forget about God, and they fight over religion when God should be part of that religion. It becomes a human thing. No God will want you to go kill another person from another religion. That's if you're praying to a God like that, that's not a godly God for me.
Yep.
People are, I will say Jesus, because it's been in the media and we know what happened recently with the assassination of that person. Again, I'm not going to say the name, but when you get given a platform, you should be spreading love. You should be spreading positivity.
100%.
It comes with that kind of responsibility. And I think our podcast is very small, and I love it that it's small, because I know the people that are tuning in, even if they don't like that, they don't comment, they message us privately. We see the views, and it is making a difference. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, I've had so much feedback now from people,
Yeah. So
and they all, like, you're obviously listening right now, and whether you comment back or not, whether I feel like people are a little bit fearful again, that they don't want to put on a comment, for whatever reason.
And I think because we come from a background, we come from an Indian community where we are talking about stuff that's probably not the norm. I talk about Reiki, which probably not many people knew about before I brought it up. In my community, I'm saying, obviously it's been known worldwide. See that? Nisha's looking at me. But what I'm saying is, there are so many things happening, but you have to be able to choose what you focus on. And for me this week I was really out of focus, and I've pulled myself back to say, hey, I actually got trapped into the whole social media thing.
Mm.
And I became quite fearful, and I don't want to live like that. So I think what we're trying to get to is that everyone, if unless you're living under a rock, you probably do know that there's a lot of stuff happening in the world. We are going through a cleansing stage. I want to bring a positive message to this episode, and that is, if I can tell you that it is going to get a little bit more uglier. Just prepare yourself. By 2028, we're 3-4 years away from that. So it will, between now and 2028, we are gonna have natural disasters. We are gonna have more stuff that you saw this week happen. People getting divided, and protests, and people just finding excuses to hate on each other. So my Nick and I were talking this morning that what you can do is to have a safe place for yourself, as in like have a safe group, or hang around with people that will uplift you, not get caught up in this whole political thing, because you can't sometimes have a conversation with certain people because they get so aggro because they want to put their point across. So if you do have people in that kind of with that kind of attitude, try not to engage with them so much, because you don't want to get your vibration pulled down because of them. So it's really how we used to hear, and I've talked about this as well, the Great Divide. The Great Divide is not the earth is going to open up and swallow one group of people, and another group is going to remain on earth. It's not going to happen like this. We are seeing the Great Division now. Division of people fighting over religion, over countries, over borders, or whatever it may be. So my suggestion would be, really work on your mindset. That will be something that is gonna take you through. Hang around with people that will uplift you. They say you become the 5 people that you hang around with. And for me, when I started on this journey, it was me and Nishaya at home, and Nick, when he was with us at home, obviously, but working, away and stuff. I started watching positive things. This is how I started on my journey. I would just turn on YouTube or whatever it was. Just completely from morning to night, drench myself with positivity about how to better yourself in life. And just so my message would be, if you can't have 5 people, you have free YouTube, you have so many podcasts. Just indulge in that, and that becomes your 5 people. People that are actually doing the good things and well, spreading the good news. They are doing this, they are successful business people. There's so much out there. It's about you making a choice. Anytime you decide you want to change your life, that is the moment your life can change. So my message would be, just positively choose what you decide to indulge in.
Yeah,
because that is going to hold your vibration high, and you need your vibration to be so high right now, because you cannot let it drop, because that's when you get caught up in all this negativity, and that's when it'll have a domino effect where other stuff will start happening. So I've had to pull myself up today and really say to you, Nick, that I'm not going to let fear rule us, rule our life, and we are going to go on holiday whenever we do this
100%.
year.
I wanted to wrap one thing up, and just like anybody that hates on a specific race, I just want to say, look, to everybody, like, whether you're like a staunch supporter, I got you, bro. Like, there's no need to hate. Whether whatever color you are. If you're Muslim, I got you, bro. If you're Indian, a Christian, Buddhist, I got you. Like, I see myself as a Christian, as a Hindu, as a Buddhist, is everything. Because at the end of the day, all that religion speaks good things. They're trying to coach you and guide you to be a good person, essentially, to be a good role model, to be a good family person, and to stand for something in life. It didn't teach you to stand for hate. So I think people that are getting lost, look, I'm not here to hate you, but I will say that you're ignorant if you actually do hate on a specific person, or some culture or some ethnicity. I think you're just ignorant. You need to go and maybe educate yourself, because no one is here to do dirty on anybody. So I think that's really what I wanted to wrap up on today. And
I just want to say one thing, just because you're speaking on this, people are fighting over religion, and because I do Reiki and I do get to connect with, beings that come through when I do a session or when I'm meditating. I have said this before, and I will keep saying it. Up there, where there is, a realm where all these masters like Jesus, Master Jesus, Shivji, Ganesha, Krishna, all of these. I'm obviously naming a few, but there's all these masters that have come and walked on earth. They all live on the same plane, on the same realm. There's no division. Sometimes when I do a client, Jesus might come through. Archangel Michael might come through, who is also in the Quran. So, and he's also in the Christian Bible. So they have no division up there. They don't tell you to hate people. Like in the Bible, Jesus healed a prostitute that was bleeding
it's true.
for so many years, and her faith healed her. Do you remember the story?
Absolutely.
She said, she was in the crowd, and she said, if I just hold the hem of his cloak, I will get healed. And as she did that, Jesus turned around and said, who was that? Who held my cloak? And she said, I did. And she said, I've been bleeding for so many years. Sorry if I'm paraphrasing, but this is what I understood from it. And Jesus said, daughter, that was your faith that healed me. It was your faith that said, if I touch just his cloak, I will get healed. So if Jesus can love a prostitute, if Jesus can go and love other beings, he never discriminated. He never said that he's, just because you have a different skin or a different color or you believe in other things. I mean, people talk about idols, right? Hindus pray to idols. I remember when we went to church, I loved my church journey. Well, one thing I will say, and I now have a better understanding, is they destroyed all my idols. And at that moment, I was so vulnerable. I was so weak because I was doing things for my daughter that I just did what they told me. But now looking back, I'm like, how dare I allowed someone to do that? I had to rebuild my temple again. When you walk into a church, what do you normally see? You see a idol of Jesus, right, at the front of the church on a wooden cross. Isn't that an idol as well?
Yeah. When you go through real stuff, which we've obviously had a journey. Sometimes you get taken advantage of, but then also you do a lot of learning. So all the stuff that we're sharing on this channel, this has got nothing to do with ego. This has got nothing to do with being on social media. We're actually doing this because we promise ourselves on that journey that when we get to that space, when through all the crap, when life starts to become better, we'll share. We want to share. We want to help somebody else that might be in a rut. Might be, and it might not necessarily be exactly what we're have experienced, but you may be just really down on the chips in life. Listen to what we're saying, because we've been through it, and I feel like we've picked up on some real nuggets in life. And that's keeping us together. It's helping us,
And you can see
see the
Nishaya
smile here.
beaming if you
Mate,
are watching this.
This is what the end goal was, this, to get to this point, to watch my daughter beam. You like the crap that we've gone through. It's everything we're sharing right now just all makes sense.
And
to
it's
me,
not to say we know everything. We're still on a journey. We're not there. I don't think we're going to ever get to the end destination, because as long as you're in this human body,
nobody can.
Nobody can. Nobody can. Even was there Rishi that said that Maharishi, when he got to the end of it, that he said, what did he say, Nick?
So it was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was a very learned meditator. He actually started the transcendental meditation, which a lot of people, my dad included, got to attend while he was still alive. But at the end of his life, I still remember that he got to the end. He'd spent his whole journey, his whole life dedicated to the transcendental meditation. Going through all the different realms of what meditation gives to you, and meditation is super powerful. So if you're not doing meditation, I really urge you to get into it. Like, listen to Neelma's other podcasts. She's an avid meditator. I also meditate as well, so it's really helped us in our life. But Maharishi Mahesh Yogi spent his whole life dedicated to that practice. And at the end of his life, he actually said, just when I thought I understood what life was about, I understood I didn't know anything. And that to me is just mind ripping, that a guy that has spent his whole life trying to crack what is life, in the end
Even he,
said,
yeah.
I don't really know. So that to me just comes back to that same thing, that, you should live by guidelines in your life, live to be a good person. Something that my grandma used to always say before she passed on, don't hurt anybody, be a good person. It doesn't mean that, you have to just
Yeah,
kind of,
walk over.
yeah, like become a religious fanatic. No one's saying to do that, right? You just got to be a good person, be respectful of everybody that's in your life. And if there are people outside of that for whatever reason don't like you, hate you, or whatever, then you just classify them as, look, you're ignorant now. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you'll never know. Who knows? But I'm just gonna take myself out, because I don't want that negativity affecting me or my family. Because energy is the real thing, guys. If you don't know that, that's why we're sharing all this, because all the negative crap that you're getting on social media, that's creating negativity, that's creating energy that is not good for you. And that's what's manipulating your mind. And that's what's getting you into that walk where you can't snap out of it. And that's what leads to stuff like depression,
Exactly.
anxiety, all this crap. It's because we're taking in too much outside energy and noise that's filtering into our system, and that's what starts to then affect your immunity, your system. So it's really important to protect your energy, protect what you listen to, and what Neelma said, which I think is really, really beautiful, is if you don't have the right types of people in your life, your friends and family, and you feel like first you got to judge them and say, okay, is this the right environment? Or is this the right environment for me? So judge yourself and what's happening around you. And then say, okay, if I don't have the right people to uplift me every day, and we'll talk about motivation in another podcast, but then just go on YouTube, listen to some positive people, start getting their messaging, because that'll help you go a long way.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this up because the show's getting a little bit tired. But so Nick, what is one thing you want to leave people with, like something they can do or something they can take away from this episode?
Love everybody. Don't hate. Everybody's the same in the inside, no matter what background or religion they're from. And if you find that people still want to purposely hate on you, then just remove yourself from that situation and just classify them as ignorant.
And for me, I think it would be just going off what you're saying, always be kind, because being kind also doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. I think I've gotten to a point, Nick's gotten to a point, we actually realize that you need to create strong boundaries. So my message today would be, if something is pulling you down, or someone is pulling you down, please create strong boundaries, because going forward, you need all the positive vibration and positive people around you, because it is going to get ugly, like I said. But hold on to your faith. And like I always say, we all are alchemists. We all have the power and thing inside of us to make us get through anything in life, right? So take this as a challenge, but also um, just do not let fear bring you down, because our faith should always be bigger than our fear. And anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Nah,
Nisha's done
good.
so well, but she's
You
getting
want to say
tired.
something?
Good. So that was Nisha's message, guys. This is our motivation right here. This whole journey wouldn't have been where it is today because of Nisha. So yes, we've had our challenges, but we are also,
Grateful.
we are very,
So
very
grateful.
grateful, and just love everyone, guys. And if, like Nick said, if they're not the right people for you, remove yourself. But don't ever let anyone control your life. And at the moment, all we see is control. So you got to let it stand up for yourself and believe in what you believe in, because one life, you got to enjoy it and don't take it too seriously.
And one last thing, if you see a particular person or group getting picked on, and in your heart it feels wrong, then stand up for them. They're your bros, they're your friends. They don't deserve it. Sometimes people just pick on people. It's bullying, right? At the end of the day, and I hate bullies. And I'm sure if you really, you know, look deep inside you, you hate bullies too. So stand up for the right thing. Don't hate though. And just yeah, just
Bullying comes in many forms as well, so you got to be careful of those narcissist people as well. And we have made some strong boundaries in our life. No one can get close to our daughter that's not right for her, and it does take some sacrifices. It's not easy, but at the end of the day, we have made a decision as a family that we want to live a good, truthful life. And where you can help people. If they don't see it, if they whatever, that's their thing. You can't control everyone. As long as on your end day, on your last day, you can look back and say, I was a good person, I did what I could do for anyone that came in our path. We promise God we will help anyone that we can. So that's what we're doing right now. And so we hope you enjoy this episode. It is a little bit
controversial, a little bit.
Yes. You don't have to agree with everything we're saying, but we're just giving you our viewpoint and saying that brace yourself and
be strong,
and
be good,
and be
just play
positive.
on,
Be positive. Bring positive things. Hang around with positive people. Make a choice. That choice will lead you either in the negative direction or positive. So always try and choose positivity over negativity. So we're going to end this episode now and say, have a beautiful day, and we'll be back with another episode. So look after yourselves. Take care.